Doing chores is the same thing as playing video games. Let me explain. So if you're someone who's young and you're on the up and up, and you're trying to come up, you're about getting the bag, self-improvement, you're doing all the good habits, that's good, that's fantastic. But if you are doing chores, that's not really going to change your life. If you're trying to come up, then you'll know that there are hard tasks in a day that you need to do. You need to get up, you need to do the hardest thing possible, you need to be working out, you need to be disciplining yourself to do the good habits that you know that you need to do. All this comes from asking yourself, what is the most important thing that I need to do today that will get me the most results in the future? And usually that ends up something about the lines of either recording a YouTube video like I am right now, or putting your work into your business, something that's going to make you money, something that's going to get you the highest ROI. And if you're a young guy, age 20s, usually it's going to get you the highest ROI is making money in some sort of way, because you're going from relying on your parents, mom and dad, to relying on yourself. That's the main primary goal that we need to be working on as young men. So on our way to Project 30, we need to be making money so we can stand our own, not just for the pursuit of money, but simply to stand our own. And the way you do that is usually by some sort of difficult task. And as in the fact that we're trying to build passive income or generate some sort of wealth that we can use to do something with, the best way is probably going to be by making passive income, right? Generating wealth that does itself. And that comes about through business instead of rather just hard labor. So business, remember, and I recommend the model is the one I use, where I teach people about a certain thing. People pay me money to sort of learn something that I'm teaching, sort of like a school, sort of like the great courses, if you know what that is. But that task usually has something to do with thinking and not actually physically doing. Thinking, I mean, of course you're doing the actual task for the business, like maybe uploading products, maybe recording videos, like I said, or just marketing, things like that. But those require thinking. Whereas doing chores or passive things, while yes, they do make you feel sort of in control of your life, they're kind of extracurricular. So in 2024, I used to just sort of do chores a lot. It's sort of, I call it like productivity porn, where you kind of feel like you're being productive and making progress. And in a way you are. You are being productive by doing chores, by fixing things around your room, by making your bed. You're making your life feel more complete. And these tasks are actually good for your mindset, your mentality, and sort of feeling like you're accomplished in a day. Because that actually is very important. A lot of people say it's not important. No. You cannot be a robot and drone all day long. But you have to realize at a certain point, what happened with me is that I realized that doing chores wasn't really changing my life. And yes, this sounds obvious to some, but if you are a young guy and you're living with your parents or living with someone else, the good way to feel productive is to make your bed. Because if you make your bed, you'll fulfill one task of the day. Then you go do another task, like sweeping the floor, vacuuming, making your house look nice. All these things are going to help your mindset, because mentally you're like, I've accomplished so much. But at a certain level, when you get to a certain level, you realize that that's not actually improving your life. These things are good for your mindset, your mentality. Like, you should be productive and feel positive and do these things. Yes, you should not just focus just on work, like drilling all the time. But you have to realize at a certain point that working out isn't going to do it. Now, this is where the caveat comes in, because I actually like doing chores. I like doing chores, but that is why I say chores are like video games. Because when I do chores, like, let's say the day starts and I start off reading, meditating. These are things that all kind of like require a lot of mental focus. But when I'm doing chores, I can sort of just turn my brain off or put my AirPods in, watch a YouTube video, like listen to it while I'm mopping the bathroom, while I'm cleaning the house, while doing these menial tasks. And sort of by highlighting this difference, if you start to look at physical labor like as chores, where you don't need to use your brain, you kind of begin to realize the difference between a physical labor worker and actually an entrepreneur. You see, we're trying to be entrepreneurs, which is using your mind, and using your mind is far more difficult than using just your physical body. Using your physical body, yes, is physically taxing, but you can almost sort of turn your brain off in the solace, the fact that someone else is telling you what to do. So if you work in like a shipyard, or like if you move bricks, so let's say some guy says you need to move all these boxes from point A to point B. While it's physically difficult, yes, because they might be heavy boxes, it's not complex, because you're just moving them from A to B. You already know what your outcome is. You just have to move them. Whereas if you're more of a thinker or doing a thinker job, then that's going to take more of your brain. And maybe you're more good at that. Maybe you're better at that. And that's fantastic. But for most people, then turning their brain off is actually far more easier than turning it on. And this is why you see the difference in the mentality. So I want you to start seeing chores as not something you should never do or just shouldn't do at all, but start seeing chores as something where it's like a task you do for fun. It's a bit extracurricular, because what you really need to be doing is using your brain to sort of make results or change reality to your will and actually make outcomes happen. So start seeing chores or like physical labor. I sort of joke that it's like a slave work. It's not slave work, but people who do those sort of things don't actually use their brain as much because it's far easier to just turn your brain off and just do a task idly rather than have to sit there and like mentally lock in. And I know this, and I'm pretty sure you guys agree with it too. That's why school is so difficult, it's so hard, and just doing physical labor is like, if you think about it in this way, it becomes much less taxing, which in a way is kind of good because you start to see it as much easier. And who knows, maybe if you have to do something difficult in the future, then you have a much easier time doing it. So you can enjoy physical labor by knowing that you have to do thinking, and it's much more difficult. If this has helped you, then subscribe and join Project 30, where me, and a bunch of other young men are going to become rich and retire before the age of 30.